Hey, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about lists and more specifically the topic of dynamic filtering between lists on SharePoint pages. Now, I'll be honest here and tell you that I discounted dynamic filtering between lists for the longest time, or at least avoided it like the plague. And for me, it was always, well, to be honest, a bit crap in terms of the user experience it delivered. You know, it was clunky and people usually got lost with it and clicked the wrong thing and went in a total different direction where I wanted them to go. However, I recently got brave and decided to approach the topic again and see if I could do something about it, you know, to make it a bit better. So spoiler alert, I actually did, and I came up with something that I'm pretty proud of. So by the end of this video, you'll have learned about, you know, what dynamic filtering is, how it works, and how to use it in a way, well, that's not clunky, is pretty much idiot proof. No offense to the users. Also, more importantly, while I'm using a specific example to demonstrate what I've done, the real value in this video is that I'm going to show you my approach to how I figured out how to do it so that you can do the same. And the cherry on this one is that you don't need any access to the admin center. Heck, you don't even need to be a site owner. As long as you're a member of a site, you can create lists, edit lists, you know, create SharePoint pages. You can do all of this. So that's the intro, that's the ramble. Let's get into it. And yeah, do something pretty cool. This video is sponsored well by me and the Academy 365 SharePoint Intranet Site Builder Masterclass. This is a course I've put together for anybody who has inherited an existing site or indeed wants to build a new department site within their company. The course focuses on the most common requirements I see again and again and a step-by-step guide on how to build them within SharePoint. There's a big focus on user experience within this course, and I've designed it so you don't have to be a techie to take it. This course is aimed at any business user who wants to up their game within SharePoint Online. If you're interested, there's a link below along with a tasty discount to get you going. Now back to the video. Okay, so what is dynamic filtering? Okay, what am I talking about? Okay, so easier to explain this if we just look at it in action. Okay, so if we come into a SharePoint site, and don't mind this, that's a little teaser to what we're building. So when we come in here, we have a list. Okay, and this is a list of things. Okay, so this list represents anything you have, right? So we have our things in the list, right? Thing 1 through 9, and we've got a column here of metadata where we're going to categorize these things. Okay, so category 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Standard stuff in a list. Okay, so to make dynamic filtering work, we need two lists. Okay, we'd have our primary list, which is the list of things that we want to show people, and our secondary list is a list that's going to act as a filter. So if I come in here to another list called categories, you can see that these categories match the values of the category column in my things list. Okay, bear with me, I promise it'll make sense now in 2 seconds. So we have two lists, right? We have our primary list of things and we have our secondary list, which is going to contain the categories that are also within our primary list. So if we came to a SharePoint page, what we can do is we can embed both lists on the page. And what we can then do is we can say, hey, category list, I want you to act as a filter for my things list. Okay, so you can imagine if you have a list with a lot of values in it, you can use this and it can be quite handy, at least in theory, for letting people explore this. So really nice on an intranet setting. At least it will be when we're finished with it. So when you come in here, the way it works is I can say category 1, okay, click it. And now it filters this list to only show things from category 1. I could click category 2 and the same thing. So you get the idea. So it's dynamically filtering the list. Now the setup of it is very easy. Okay, so all you'd have to do is we'll edit the page and we'd come in here to the list web part, and there's a toggle here called dynamic filtering, and when you stick it on, you have a couple of options in here to help you choose what you want to filter by. So basically what it's saying is within this list, what is the column you want to filter by? Okay, and we pick category, so you have that in here, and then it asks what other list on this page do you want to use as your filters. So we've embedded this list called categories, so we want to choose that list. Straightforward. And then the next thing, or the final thing it's going to ask for is, okay, within that list, what is the column you want to use as the filter? Now, we only have one and it's category, so we've selected that. Now, the important thing is that whatever you're filtering by must have the same values as what you have in the main list. So we've category 1 here, so when I click that, it's going to look at this list in the column I asked it to look in, and it's going to filter by the same term. So you just need matching terms. Now, it doesn't really matter what type of column this is. I've used a lookup column just because I looked up these values, but it could easily be a choice column. Just once the terms match, you're good to go. So in a nutshell, it's pretty straightforward, right? You're just filtering one list with another list. It just has a fancy name of dynamic filtering, but it's straightforward enough. So what's wrong with dynamic filtering? Well, I'm glad you asked. So let's go back over to our basic example, okay? So For me, the things that I don't like about this is it looks too SharePointy. There's a lot of noise here. Now we could hide the controls here, but we'd still see the columns in the list, particularly in our filter list. I don't particularly like it. But the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things for me, is that there's too many things for people to click on. So ideally, we just want them to click the row, which is going to filter, and that works fine. But if somebody clicks the item itself, it takes them to the list item, which for me is horrendous. It takes them totally out of what I wanted people to do. The only reason I have this here is to let people filter. I don't want people clicking it and going off and having a look at the list item that I really only created for the purpose of filtering. And you can do some things with, changing the column so it's not a link to the item and stuff like that, but it still doesn't even look right at that, okay? So I don't like that. I don't like over here in the list here, so people can click this item here, and again, it takes them to the item, which I don't want to do. If I've got kind of the category displayed here and the metadata, again, people can click it, it'll take them to the list. So there's a lot of ways that rather than just consuming what's in here, or maybe clicking a call to action that directs them to somewhere where you want them to go, there's just so many things people can do here that will send them in a wrong direction. Now I'm coming at this from an intranet point of view, where it's really about displaying information and making it, idiot proof, user friendly, where there's a lot of things where people will be like, how the hell did I get here, type of thing. So we want to avoid that. And that was my challenge, and I'm going to show you an example now of what I came up with. Okay, so what are we actually going to build? Well, I knew I wanted to tackle this problem, so I was looking around for websites or inspiration that I could tackle and try and replicate, and I happened to stumble across the McDonald's website. Don't ask me how, but I did. So if we have a look at McDonald's site and we look at their menu, we have this kind of a setup here, which is not too different, right, from what a dynamic filtered list will do, in that we have this primary list of food, and then on the left hand side we've got the categories of the food. So this is our filtered list and our primary list. Okay, so that's what I'm going to show you how to build, well, at least the SharePoint version of this experience. But this has got what we want, right? The filters just act as filters, nothing else. So what does this look like in SharePoint, and what are we going to build? Well, if we come into here, this is my version of it, and now you see why I had the McDonald's logo here. So I have my primary list in here, and again, this is just a SharePoint list of all of the different foods that we have, and over here we have the categories of the food. So this works nicely now in that I can click burgers and I just get burgers. I can click nuggets, I get nuggets. Wraps and salads, I get wraps and salads, so on and so forth. Okay, I can come into my fries and I get fries and all this good stuff in here. So it looks pretty nice, I will say. I'm happy with how it turned out looks wise, but more importantly, the functionality is even better. Okay, so where we have our filters over here, it doesn't matter where I can click burgers, nothing happens. The only thing this does is filter my list, which is what I wanted to do, right? That's good. And if I come down in over here, the product side of things, if I click anywhere in here, nothing will happen. Okay, people stay here. The only way that people will get away from this page through interacting with this list is by clicking the call to action that I've put there to do that specific job. Okay, so if someone clicks the fries, learn more, they're going to come to another page in my site where I'm going to tell them all about fries. Okay, so they have all the nutritional information. This is another example of a dynamic filtered list. Okay, so we're going to show the nutritional information related to the small fries, the large fries, or the medium fries. Okay, and all the other good stuff that we have in here. But this is the main point. Okay, so back in our menu, we have full control over the user experience here. Okay, SharePoint is in control and sending people to all different sorts of list items and weird functionality. Okay, it's very simple. A filter is a filter, and then a product card is just a product with one specific action that can take people away. Take a breath now. I'm getting worked up just thinking about it, but that's the purpose of this. Right now we're in control, so let's build it. Okay, so what's the setup here? Well, if we come back to the site, we can see here that to make this happen, we need a primary list which contains all of the food items, and we need our secondary or filter list which contains the category of the food items. Okay, so two lists. So if we come into my full menu list, this is all of the food items. Okay, and the list setup is pretty straightforward. I basically got a title column, which is the title of the food item, the food type. Okay, so there are categories that we'll be filtering by. I have a food image, which is just an image column. I should say this is a choice column. So I have an image column, and that's going to be the thumbnail for the food items. And then I have the more info column here, which is a hyperlink column, and this is going to contain the link that I want to send people to, right? So this is the one thing I want people to do is my learn more. So you can add any other columns you want into your list, whatever's relevant to you. But for me, in this example, these are essential. I need a title, I need a filter category, I need a thumbnail, and I want that extra action for people to go and do something. Okay, So that's my primary list. And then my secondary list or my filter list is very simple. I have an image column here, which is going to be the category image. And then I just have the default title column, which contains the categories themselves. So just 2 columns in this list, simple as can be. Now there's 2 key things that are going to give us the result we want here, okay? One of them is the gallery view within a list. So within any list, we can have views, okay? And I'm in the all items view at the moment, which is just a list view, okay? But if I was to create a new view, I have an option here to create something called a gallery view. And when I create a gallery view, that creates basically the list as cards. But the important point is the column headings disappear, okay? So that's very important. The second thing that makes this possible is JSON formatting of the view. Now, don't let JSON, the term, scare you, okay? Trust me, I am no developer. The only reason I was able to do this and create the JSON code to format this is I stood on the shoulders of my good friend ChatGPT. I couldn't write a line of JSON code if my life depended on it, but I didn't need to, okay? All I need to do is to be able to ask for what I want, and the code was just given to me. It was surprisingly simple. There's a bit of trial and error, but we're going to go through that together, okay? Because I need to recreate these views on this video, and I have no idea what the code is that made them possible. So we're just going to come up with it again, okay? So that's the setup, and that's what we need to do. Okay, so we'll start with the filter menu because we're already here. We're in our menu. We have it created with the columns. We've got to populate it. What's next? So what we want to do is we want to come over here and we're going to create a new view, and we'll call this view filter view, okay? And what we want to do is we want to say it wants to be a gallery type view. So I'm going to say create, and by default we have this with no column headings. So we're starting off well, okay? So now we're going to need some help. So a good tip, right, to make sure that all of the column references are correct, okay, because ChatGPT is going to need to know them, is if we click the drop down here, okay, and we say format current view, and we click edit card and the card designer, and just make a change. So show column labels, we'll hide them because we don't want them, okay? And we click save. Now go to advanced mode, okay? And now we have a baseline piece of code here that we're going to give ChatGPT, and this contains all of the names of the columns that we need to reference. So item image in here, and then we've got title down here. Now they're obvious ones, right? But if you've got more stuff in your list, this is a really nice way to make sure you get the exact right names and references. So what we do is we take all this code, select it, copy it, and now you're going to go to ChatGPT. So I'm not going to go through the sign up process or how you get into it. Google it and you will get it pretty quick. But we're going to come in here and we're going to just start interacting. So I'm going to say, hi, can you please help me with something? Now this bit isn't really required, but you know, if AI keeps going the way it is and Terminator comes to real life, I'd like ChatGPT to know I was always polite to it. So what we're going to do is now we're going to get into it, okay, with our first prompt. And here we want to start to get into some specifics. So I'll say, I'm looking to format a SharePoint Online list using JSON format. So the list is using a gallery type view. So then I'm going to provide it with that code that we copied, so it has the context and the references. And then I will then give you instructions on how I want the list to display using updated JSON code, which I would like you to provide me. Okay, so I'm no prompt master, but you know, hopefully this gets us in the ballpark. So here is the code. They just paste it in and hit enter. And then it comes back and tells me that it understands, which is great. So this next bit might take a couple of tries to get the right answer, but we'll persevere and we will get there because I did get there. So it'll happen. So great. Okay, so currently the image is displayed above the title. I would like the image to be reduced in size and have the title displayed to the right of the image for every list item. Can you please help me? And let's see what we get. And just like magic, it writes the code that I would never have had a hope in writing. And there we have it. Just like that, we have our first stab at the updated code. Now, it might not be right, but we just need to start so we can refine, okay? So what we do is we'll come back up to the top, and then we come back into our list where we were, and we can get rid of everything that we had in here and paste in the new code. Now, the good thing about this is we can click preview rather than save, just to see what happened, okay? So if I click preview, not quite the result we wanted. So it did reduce the image size, which is good, but it didn't change the layout. So maybe we need to be a bit more specific. So I'll say, thanks, but the result was not what I wanted. And I'll just tell it what went wrong. So the list item is still the original size and only the image was reduced. The title is still beneath the image. So now it knows where, you know, it didn't really hit the mark. So now I'll say I need the entire list item card reduced in size and the position of the title adjusted so that it always displays to the right of the image within the list card. Let's give that a go. So now we can copy that back over to our site, remove all of this, paste in again and click preview. So now we're much closer, okay? So you can see the little bits of refinement get us there. So now what we might ask for is we might ask for a little bit of space between the image and the title. So little incremental changes. So we'll say there's still no change. Can you please try again and try to enforce the required space between the image and title? And for fun, we'll say, please act like a SharePoint Online JSON code master. And we'll see if that made the difference. So we'll come back up and we'll copy the code back into our SharePoint site, get rid of all of this, paste in the updated code and click preview. Okay, and we're getting better. We got our space, which is good, but now we have this weird border, right? So let's try to do something about that. And I think we can actually fix that ourselves. So within this code, so what I think we can do where we come up to the top and we see things like border radius, etc., let's just change that. So if we just make this a 0, border radius, again, we'll just make it 0. And the box shadow, again, we can just make it 0 and 0, and we can just preview, and that's gone away. So that's looking pretty good. Okay, I think we're nearly there. One thing I might do is decrease the width of the items in here, because you can see the selection over here is way further out than this. So we can come up here to width, and we might change this to 250, and we'll preview, and that brings it in a little tighter, and this looks super. Okay, so once we have it like this, we'll click save, and now we can close out of this, and now we see things as they're meant to be within our filtered view. And then the last check, just to make sure we're happy, is if I come back to the home page, I'm going to create a new page just so we can embed this and have a look. Create page, we'll call it filter test, and in here I'm going to change this column layout to 1/3 left, because that's what we'll probably use. Get rid of the text, come in here, add in a list. The list we want is our sidebar menu. Within our sidebar menu, we want the view we created called our filter view. We'll hide everything, and we'll just click apply. And now we have this nice menu in here. So let's publish, and we can see that this is working exactly like we want. Okay, so happy days. So we got it in there. Now I know there was a bit of trial and error, and you may be more familiar with JSON or less familiar with JSON, but you know, once you can keep asking questions and be persistent, you'll get there. So now we can turn our attention to the actual list of food items. Okay, so now in our full menu list here, okay, as I mentioned before, we've set it up so we've got our title, food type, food image, and more info. That's everything we want, okay? So the first thing that we'll do is we'll create a new view, because at the moment we're in all items. So we're going to say create view, and we're going to call it food menu list. We'll make it a gallery view, and we'll click create. So now we're in this view here. First thing we'll do is we'll do what we can out of the box, okay? And that'll also give us our starting code to give to ChatGPT so that we have all of the column references correct. So I'll drop down this, and I'm going to say format current view. We'll use the edit card designer, and I'm going to turn off the column labels because we don't need them. And I'm also going to hide the food type because we don't need that. So in our card, we really just want the image, the title of the item, and then a learn more call to action. And that's what we're going to format. So I click save, and now we can take it into advanced mode to copy that code. So what we do is we select all the code and copy. And now we can take it over to ChatGPT, where we can start making the changes that we want. So we'll get the ball rolling with our first prompt. So we'll say, hi, I have some more JSON list formatting code I would like you to help me amend. This is a new list. I will now provide you with the current code so that you have a reference to work from. I really appreciate your help. And remember, you are a SharePoint Online JSON formatting master, just in case it forgot. Now we'll just paste in our code and hit enter. Okay, so now we're on the same page. Let's start off with our first actual prompt. So we'll start off simple. I would like the item title and more info link center aligned on the card. Okay, now let's copy that and give it a go. So we'll click copy code. Back into SharePoint, we'll remove all of this, paste in the updated code, click preview, which worked pretty nice. So the next thing we might ask for is that we make the title bold, and we make the learn more link bold, and also our red color. So back in here, what we're going to say is, excellent, that worked great. And then we'll say, can you now please format the title so that it appears bold with a font size of 18 pixels, and also that the more info link is bold and its color is red. And let's give that a go. Super. Let's grab that code and put it into SharePoint. Back in our list, we'll get rid of all of this, paste in the update, and click preview. Super, excellent. This is looking great. I think we're almost done here. There's a couple of more things that we might do, okay? So what we want to do now is we want to take away the interaction with the card elements. Now we could of course use ChatGPT to do that, but I happen to know how we do it by editing this code. So we'll give that a go, and I'll show you what I would do. So up to the top of your JSON code, you have this part here, right, called custom row action. So what we can do is we can actually remove this altogether, okay? So there is no custom row action. So take it all, including this little comma here, and we delete it. And now we'll click preview. And that means if we click any of these items, it's not going to pop out the information panel. However, our link will still work. Another thing we can do to remove interaction is where at the very top of the code where it says hide selection, that's set to false, we can turn that to true. We'll click preview, and that's also going to disable the ability to select these cards. So we'll just click save now to save all of those changes. So this is all looking pretty good. What we might do is we might reduce the width of the card, okay, just to remove this gray area. Now we could also upload different images that are wider and have the background to fill it out more, but we can just amend this slightly. So what we'll do is we'll come back into our format current view, and we can change the width value to something like 230. Click preview, and again, that's looking better. So we click save, and I think we're pretty much there. So let's go back to our demo page where we put in the sidebar menu, and we'll add this list to see how it all works together. So here we are on our filter test. I'm just going to edit the page. Come over here. We're going to add in the list web part again. We'll select full menu. We'll edit the web part. So the view we want now is our food menu list that we just changed. We'll hide the command bar, hide the see all button, and we'll apply. We'll click republish. Now we've not connected these two things together yet, but we can see in here that we have our items and I can click on them and nothing happens. But if I click learn more, that link works perfectly in that it's going to send us to wherever we've specified in the menu. So the last thing we really want to do here is to connect these two items together for the dynamic filtering. So we'll edit the page. We'll select this list here because this is the one we want to apply the dynamic filtering to. Edit web part, we'll toggle on dynamic filtering. So again, it's saying, well, what column in this list do you want to filter by? And we're going to say food type. And then it says, well, what list do you want to use as your filters? And we're going to say sidebar menu. And then it's going to say, well, what's the column do you want to filter within the sidebar menu? And we want to choose title. We'll click apply. And what we'll also do is up here in the size where it says medium, we're going to set that to auto size to fit the number of items within our list. And we'll click republish. And the absolute moment of truth is if I want to just see my burgers, now I see burgers. And again, down to our fries, I see my fries. And again, these links work. We can click it and it'll take us to our fries page. Super. So there you have it. I know it was a pretty random example, but really the purpose of this video, like a lot of my videos, is to help show you what SharePoint is capable out of the box. We can create some really great user experiences when we just think a little differently. And with things like ChatGPT available now, it makes it so much more accessible for people, you know, who don't have development skill. It really is very exciting to play around with this stuff and see what we can come up with. So I encourage you to do the same. Experiment with list views. Playing with a list view is not going to harm the data within the list. It's just a presentation link. So you can experiment fairly worry-free. So if you've got any questions or feedback, please put them in the comments below. If you got any value from the video, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate the support so far, and I'm super excited to see where we can take this chat. So until next time, see ya.